Hello, Mindful Millionaire community. I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you today. I'll be sharing about money, chakras, and healing your relationship with money. Let's dig in. And I want to start with a question, which is what is it that we all want more of? We finance people or people who think about money a lot would probably say, first and foremost, that we want to have a fast track to cash. And while I think that that is a really worthy and important goal, or I wouldn't be here talking about money today, what we'll be discussing is something that requires us to go deeper than just the money, okay? I want to take it deeper because this is how I roll. If you've hung out with me before, you know that I like to go deep into conversation and deep into whatever it is that we're talking about. And so when we think about money and what it is that we most want, what I would say, especially if you have gone through 2020 like I have, this pandemic, all the changes, when we look inside and we say, what do we really want? I think all of us want to know that everything is going to be okay in our lives, in our businesses, and with our money. And that's actually what's most important to us, that we'll have enough money to take care of our lives, to be able to leave a legacy for our children, that we'll have enough resources so that we can be a contributor to the world rather than a taker, which is really interesting to think about, this idea of leaving the world in a better place than we found it. I think that many of us think about these things. And if you're with me so far and this is interesting to you, then great, you're in the right place. So here's the problem that I see that gets in the way of us achieving what we most want. It is called scarcity. And I've studied scarcity for a really long time. Put simply, scarcity shrinks our perspective about life. It causes us to play life as if it's a zero-sum game. And it causes us to work in silos. It causes us to make not the best decisions. It actually leads to a loss in IQ of about 13 points, which is comparable to losing one night of sleep. When we are living in scarcity, it's the thing behind the scenes that diminishes our dreams and our confidence in our ability to thrive. Does that make sense? I hope so. When we take a step back from the busyness of our lives, we can see this theme and all the ways it's playing out, maybe in our personal lives and also in the world around us, especially during these times. And I think that no matter who you are, there is a challenge that has arisen in the past, right? That was affected by this scarcity mindset. So just be really honest with yourself. Like no one's immune. No matter how much money you have, it shows up one way or another. I saw this happening for myself as a financial advisor for many years and someone who has worked with people and their money for over 25 years. And, put simply, I sought to find a solution for scarcity. Like this became my passion. I really couldn't think about anything else. I knew that the way that we show up and interact with money when we come from a place of scarcity was not helping us. And I wanted to find a way that helped people live more from a prosperity mindset. And what I also discovered along the way is that money is a great place to learn about this and to try it out and learn how to do this, make this transition from scarcity to a prosperity mindset. So I'm going to be showing you today how to do this for yourself, at least to begin thinking about it differently. And I will warn you that my ideas might seem kind of weird to some, and I'm okay with that. Like I'm used to being kind of the person off in the opposite direction of where everybody else is going. That's just been the story of my life because I like to think differently and I like to come up with different ideas and frameworks that help us understand things that might not be easy to understand. So I also think that the time of when we're having this discussion is really, really amazing because I think we're oversaturated with money thoughts. And we're always thinking about money in very practical terms. But I've been on this journey of looking inside on my inner journey for a long time. And what it did was it caused me to think in new ways and to really question the assumptions of how we think about money in our lives and the ways that we might be able to do things differently or think differently. I've been obsessed with it. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. We're going to be looking at what it takes to create a prosperity mindset. And the way that I am going to do that is go through three things: awareness and the energy of money, movement, the flow of money, and ultimately magnetizing, the accumulation of money. I want to start by diving into the awareness, the energy of money. You've probably heard that saying, money is energy, or money is just energy, or energy is money. And I want to really hit this home for you to be thinking about, perhaps in a new way, because this is a really important concept before we dive in a little bit deeper. First and foremost, money is value expressed as energy. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to you. But I'll take it to a more practical level, which is, everything is got energy running behind the scenes. Everything in life, there is energy that causes us to move, to engage, to flow, to be with all of life, right? It takes energy. Energy is flowing through the world that we live in, and it's flowing through our bodies at all time. It's flowing through nature. It's happening, right? This is something that has been studied extensively. I'm not going to go into that in great detail. I'm not a scientist, but the point is that energy is flowing around us all the time. And when you look at the circular flow of money as energy, and we look at the way that money is moving constantly, circulating through all these different transactions, you can feel how money is really energy. It's the value that we have as human beings put forth into the economy, and it moves through the businesses, the households, the government, the world, and it's constantly flowing, right? And what happens is, no matter where you are, you can't avoid, this energy at some level happening. It makes the world go round is a great way to say it, right? That is true. It's the exchange of value through the system, and everything is going great when things are in flow. However, when there's a blockage in that flow of energy, that's what causes things like economic cycles to occur. So we've seen this before, and we're probably seeing it right now, right? We have these buildups, and then some kind of blockage occurs. The flow of money becomes blocked. People stop spending money. People can't go out of their houses and spend money. I mean, whatever it is, if there's some kind of blockage, we can see this happening and playing out in the economic cycle. The other interesting thing is that when something isn't working in the economy, we have data points, we have graphs, we have charts, we have all this information that we can be paying attention to that tells us what's working and what isn't. So these are the tools that we have built in our society to help us understand where are the blocks of energy and what might we do differently to keep things flowing, right? To get the economy back and moving. Now, what's interesting is that when we move into this discussion around the flow of money and movement, I want to take your attention from out there in the world and the economy and what's going on to the inner experience of what's happening with money and with energy inside of you. So we'll start by confirming that all living beings are made up of some kind of energy, right? It's vast, far vaster than most of us realize just how much power we really have in the energy that flows through us. And this is where it gets a little trickier, because when it comes to practical and scientific methods, there isn't really a foolproof system that helps us understand what's happening with the energy inside of us. But yet we know it's there. We know it's happening. We know one day we have lots and lots of energy and we could go run a marathon. And then another day we can barely get out of bed. We know that it's happening, that our energy is different. We know that, some things in life, like let's say playing sports, are really easy for us to do. And yet when it comes to managing our money, maybe now or in the past, that's been like a slogging through something. Like it's hard to manage the money. In the line of work that I do now, I help a lot of people who have basically noticed that there is not a flow of money going in and out of their lives. And there's a lot of blockages. There's a lot of resistance with money. I saw this in my financial advising practice, and I brought that forth when I started my company, Wealth Clinic. But this is where I was encouraged to look at things differently, because I was like, just because there wasn't a system created that helps us understand this energy doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And I wanted to dive in deeper to understand much of how I think that the world approaches money has to do with this very masculine, left brain, number crunching approach, right? Very logic based. And while that works and it can, help us to balance our checkbook, what I also found is there is a very feminine aspect of money that's happening behind the scenes. And that is the feelings that we have, the experiences, the emotions that we carry around money. And I knew that we had to look inside of these feelings to be able to really get in touch with what's going on. Why are things working for us in some areas and not working for us in others? And what could we do to change the energy so that instead of being in resistance, we were moving forward? We were in flow with our money and with all of life for that matter. So together, we're looking at the energy that's flowing inside of us. And what I was also really curious about is how can we make money more holistic in our lives, not just being the left brain, but also the right brain. How can we bring our feelings and emotions about money into our practical and logical experiences with money? What I call this is a sacred partnership between the masculine and feminine lenses that we look at life and, in this case, our money relationship. And so what I also knew was that if we could open up the flow, we could be in greater energetic flow, we could create more harmony in our lives. Like I just knew this to the core of my being. And, back to this idea of, are we in flow or are we facing blockages with money? That's what I was asking myself. Why do some people just have money just flowing through their lives all the time, and other people feel like they're connected to a ball and chain and they can't get out of their situation? And what I discovered in my studies and in my practices was that there was a teaching that, really I've been studying over this past 2 decades that brought my financial career together with this opportunity for healing, which, I'll be honest, like it just kind of didn't fit for a lot of people. Like people didn't understand what I was talking about for a long time. And ultimately I felt like I had to write a book about this because it wasn't easy to explain. It's not easy to teach something that is just coming through me and not necessarily being taught to me from the external world. But what I found is when I smashed up the ancient teachings of the chakras that go back 4,000 years in the East, that were constructed from a very spiritual place of self-understanding and self-realization. But the chakras are these energy centers that are superimposed, if you will. Like we imagine, they're not going to show up on an X-ray machine, right? These are energy centers in the body that the more we pay attention to them, the more they tell us where we're in flow and when we're blocked with money and with pretty much everything in life. I just happened to smash it up against our relationship with money. And when I started to look into this and look into what was being taught to me through these chakra superimposed mindfulness oriented practices, all of a sudden these incredible realizations started to come to me and to other people. And that's what I'm wanting to share with you just a little bit more about today. But the point is that each of these chakras are able to, when we tune into them, show us what's working in our life and what isn't, what's in flow and what isn't. It's really that cool. It does require us to be open-minded, I'll give you that, but it's pretty fun, and I'm going to show you a little more detail of how this works. So first I'll show you the map of these 7 chakras and kind of the overarching idea of what each of them represent. I don't have enough time to go into them in great detail, but each chakra, going from the root of the bottom of your spine all the way up to the crown of your head, each have embodied characteristics that have a lot to do with the process of what we went through as we were growing up, particularly from birth till the age of about 25. So they chronicle the actualization, the maturing of a human being. And then for each of these stages that we go through, we may get caught in patterns, in tendencies, in behaviors and belief systems behind the scenes that are running the show, even though we might not totally realize that they're happening. But what happens is as we tune into them, they tell us things about our relationship with money and also the beliefs that we have about ourselves. So when I took those 7 chakras and I smashed them up against, all my experience in financial planning as a certified financial planner, what I found was each of these chakras have a belief system behind them and also tie into our experiences with money. At the bottom, at the root level, it's about this fear of not being safe in the scarcity mindset, right? I'm not safe. COVID, I've noticed, has really triggered a lot of people's root chakras because there's this sense of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I'm not safe. I might get sick. I might lose all my money, those sorts of fears. And when those run rampant, that's when we make bad decisions about things that are really important to our lives. On the other side of it, this prosperity lens says, I'm safe, I'm secure. And by tuning into each of these chakras, we start to understand where we might be holding on to beliefs that are just not serving us, just not true. And if there is stories or there are past experiences that need to be healed, forgiven, released, we can do that in the process of looking at each of these levels of our being. The other thing about I'm not safe is I think that when we don't have a steady stream of income coming into our home, there is a tendency to feel that sense that, oh my gosh, this isn't good. And so the recommendation I have is make sure that you have a steady stream of income coming into your household every month so that you do feel like you're going to be okay. Like this isn't about denial or just like manifesting and dreaming that everything's going to go away. There's a practical component to this. When we move into the next one, the sacral chakra, this is about worthiness. And what I found is that when people are struggling with sacral chakra issues, it has a tendency to cut us off from our feeling sense. And when we get ourselves into something like lots and lots of debt and we just kind of ignore it and push it off, the way that we can keep that pain away is we just don't feel our feelings. But when we tune into our feelings, we realize that, I really don't like living in a situation where I have a lot of debt or I'm not saving enough money. And we start to turn the dial in the direction of I'm worthy of being financially confident, right? Taking good care of myself financially. We move into the solar plexus. This is where the power chakra is. And this is moving from powerlessness to powerful. Put simply, this is about being able to manage our money effectively and have a really strong, system of knowing how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, where is it going, how am I taking care of myself, how am I saving and managing my overall portfolio. When we move into the heart chakra, this is about love and appreciation. And this tells a story, and what I've seen for many women in particular, but there's plenty of people that have this, where the heart chakra is about giving and receiving, giving value and receiving that value back in the exchange of money, for example. It doesn't just have to be money, but that's one example. And so when there's a blockage in the heart chakra, I find that people undercharge. I find that people don't ask to be paid, what in commensurate with the value that they're creating in the world. We undercharge, we get underpaid. And when we pay attention to this idea that I want to be appreciated, and one way in the human being form that we are showing, ourselves appreciation is by asking to be paid for the value that we're creating. Not what we're worth, but for the value that's being created and exchanged. When we move into the throat, this is about trust and expression. And this one's really interesting because I was a financial advisor for several years and I'm a certified financial planner. And when you get into the throat chakra, this is when, we have belief systems that I don't trust myself, or maybe you don't trust others. But both of those have problems associated with it. It doesn't mean we want to be naive, but what I can see is sometimes we abdicate our responsibility to take care of our money to other people because we don't trust ourselves, right? Or the other extreme, I got this all figured out. I don't need any help. I'm going to do it, and I know how to do it best, where you probably could learn from others. It's like paying attention to the extremes is really helpful here. And the goal is to be able to trust yourself, get educated, know what you're talking about, and ask for your partners to be partners, not people that you are giving, abdicating all the responsibility to your financial advisor to take care of everything for you. We don't want to do that. When we move into the brow chakra, this is about being enough. This is about bringing all your wisdom from your past experiences together with your intuition. Okay, it's both. We want to listen to both. Life experience combined with, gosh, I don't have a good feeling about this. Something's not right. And being able to listen to both sides. And when we bring both sides together, that's when we feel like we are enough. And it is the coolest feeling because in reality, we are all enough. But for many of us, we live in a culture that tells us we're not enough from a very young age. And there comes a moment in time in life and you're like, that's it. I am enough. I know this, and I'm going to live this way going forward. You can imagine when you feel like you're enough, what shows up in your life and how you experience money changes dramatically. And then finally, at the crown chakra, this is about wholeness. This is about feeling prosperous. And it's really building on all 7 of the chakras to come together to be like, I am that. I am prosperous. I am abundant. I have what I need, and I am capable of creating the life that I really want to be living. And so this is where the chakras have shown me, where was I stuck? Where was I not in flow? Where have my clients, this has been such a helpful tool because it really changes the language that we're thinking about money, right? We are going from this very masculine approach of money and thinking that it's all numbers and logic and blah, it just gets exhausting. And instead we're bringing in our feeling, we're bringing in our emotions, we're bringing in this feminine approach to money. And we're looking at the wholeness in the picture, right? It's we're able to understand what's happening inside of us with money and everything else for that matter. And finally, we come into magnetizing, the accumulation of money. And this is really a summary of like, what do you do next from this conversation? So step 1, and I'm going to give you some access to meditations that I've created for free, so you can look at that and check them out. But the first thing I want you to do is think about learning how to meditate to release the blocks that might be showing up in any one of the 7 main chakras. Number 2 is decide what you really, really want, because if you don't know what you want, it's hard to create the things that you want, put simply. And then next, step 3, get really focused. When I've done the chakra work, for years now, what I've seen is that it allows me to focus on the areas that are out of flow and coast in the areas that are working fine. So I get focused on improving the things that I might be struggling with, paying more attention, greater awareness. What are the areas that I want to be focusing and spending more time on? What things can I be doing to help my clients? Step 4 is about taking massive action. This is when you get to go back into that mode of like, okay, let's go make some money. Let's go bring some cool things into reality. Let's go create. But this time you're not creating from this place of resistance and blocks and all the stuff that probably has snagged you in the past from a scarcity mindset, right? You're no longer going to need to be coming from this scarcity mindset. And then 5, build wealth. Celebrate every milestone. Stay tuned into your chakras because they're really cool and they can teach you so much about yourself. And I just want to leave you with this. A prosperity mindset equals freedom from the perception of challenges. Like, it is the great equalizer. It gives you greater clarity in money making and the journey that you're on. It ensures that you're going to be more kind to yourself along the way. And if it's important to you, hey, bring it on. Bring more money in as you gain greater clarity in your life about yourself. It's helped me a lot. I hope it helps you. It's actually way easier to create all of these things outside of scarcity. The greater we understand the flow of our energy, the more empowered we become, not just with money, but in creating the life we really want to be living. You are a source of incredible energy, and I just want to encourage you to use it to the fullest extent possible. You are a miracle, and your potential is limitless. And if you have any questions from this presentation, I've listed my email address here. And if you'd like to go and get the I Prosper diagnostic tool, which will kind of be a summary of what you've been learning here today and my guided chakra meditation, you can go to wealthclinic.com/gift. Namaste.